Hi, my name is Ritu, and today we are going to talk about an important visual tool called Swimlane Diagram. For next 15 minutes, I'll try to explain what is a swimlane diagram, what are some of the advantages of a swimlane diagram, in what situations it is recommended to use it, and I will also try to illustrate with the help of an example how you can draw a swimlane diagram in Visio. So to start with, let's define what is a swimlane diagram and try to understand how to draw it. A swimlane diagram is also called cross-functional chart or a cross-functional diagram. It is a process flowchart that, other than illustrating the process steps, also provides information on who does what. As we all know that there are more than one participant or an actor or a department involved in any process. So while depicting a process map on swimlane diagram, each participant, or you can say an actor, is assigned a different lane. So it is evident from the name that swimlane diagrams has different lanes, and each of these lanes are defined or are assigned to a different actor or a different department. To understand more about what is a lane, we can say that a lane shows the responsibility or task by a particular department or the actor who is involved into the process. This will be more clear once we actually see the example later in the video. So now we all know that each participant in the process is assigned a lane, and all the activities performed by that particular actor is shown in that lane. Also, each lane represents an area of responsibility that can be helpful in identifying and visualizing different stages and departments. Sometimes time dimension is also added to the lane to show that how much time is taken by each activity. However, for the purpose of today's example, we will not be considering the time dimensional and try to keep the example simple. Now let's discuss few of the advantages of a swimlane diagram. One of the primary advantage of swimlane diagram is its ability to clearly illustrate the responsibilities of a functional area. Swimlane are used to illustrate process maps, and they are helpful in identifying who is in charge of a particular process step. It also shows who is involved at what process step. And this kind of information can be really helpful when you are trying to fix the responsibility. So we can say that swimlane diagrams are very helpful when the purpose is to fix the responsibility. A lot of times swimlane is confused with process flowcharts. However, there are few fundamental differences between the two types of visualizations. To highlight those differences, I would say flowchart shows the sequence of the process steps, whereas Swimlane shows the process step and also the corresponding actors who are responsible for those steps. Second fundamental difference in the flowchart and Swimlane is how these two visualizations handle decisions. Usually, the Swimlane diagram do not have decision diamonds. However, a process chart has decision diamonds. In the flow chart, the process flow can be changed based on the output of those decisions. So I would say it is recommended to use Swimlane when the requirement is to show the responsibility, and use flowchart when the process flow needs to be identified or displayed. Now we are going to see an example of a Swimlane diagram in Visio. For the purpose of this video, the example which we will be using today is a mobile phone rebate process. And we are going to draw a process map for this process. And the assumption is that the current process is very manual and the organization wants to upgrade it and apply few automations to the process, for which they want to know the current process so that they can use updations and automations. So there are few steps before you start drawing a Swimlane diagram. Like you should know the flow of the process steps, the departments that are involved. So these kind of things are important and necessary before you start creating a process map. To start with, let's log into Visio and choose cross-functional flowchart. As you can see on the left hand side, there is a column says basic flowchart shapes. These are the few shapes which we will be using to draw our process map. And then on the right hand side of the screen, it is divided in the lanes. These lanes are nothing but the departments which are involved in our rebate process. So we'll be naming these lanes accordingly. To start with, the first lane is the customer lane. So we'll go ahead and change the name of the first lane to customer. In the same way, we are going to change the name of all the lanes one by one. Once we have identified, or we know what all lanes will be involved or what all departments will be involved in the Swimlane diagram, we'll start drawing the process steps. Before we start drawing the process steps, we need to have the understanding which process step is done by which department or actor. Accordingly, that process step will be drawn in that swim lane and connected with the next step. We use the start box, the oval box, and write start in it. We'll drag the process box and write the first step in our process map, which is customer purchases the phone. As we know that the customer is involved in purchasing the phone, we will be drawing this process step in the customer lane. The third step is, after purchasing, the customer mails the completed rebate form. The third step in the process map is open and sort mail. As the name suggests, this step is not done by the customer. So we will not be drawing this box in the customer lane, and we will be dragging this box to the lane where it belongs to. So this step is done by the rebate center group. That's why you see that the two steps which are done by the customer, the process is in the customer lane, and the step which is done by the rebate, the process box is moved to the rebate group. So this helps us in identifying that what steps are followed by a customer and what steps fall under rebate center group. So the second step for the rebate center group is that the rebate forms are sent to the rebate team, and then these forms are sorted by the product. Then they are routed to the specialist. They validate the rebate criteria, enter the form into the database, and then enter into the customer record. All these steps fall under the rebate center group. So we will be drawing all these steps one by one under the rebate center group lane and joining them by the arrows. And these steps will be drawn in the way they occur in the actual process. So once the process related to the rebate center of the group, the next step is that the rebate info is logged in Excel sheet or tracking database. As the step suggests that this is done by a person who handles the database. So this will follow under the Excel database or system lane. We will put all the steps that are related to the system or the database and then move on to the steps for the accounting team, which is create rebate check and send the rebate check to the rebate center. Once the accounting team sends the rebate check, it is received by the rebate center group. So this process step will be under rebate center group lane. And once the rebate center group emails this check, it is received by the customer. As the process step suggests, this process step should fall under the swim lane which belongs to the customer. And this is the last step in the process map. So we will end the process after this step. So this is how the diagram, the Swimlane diagram looks like for a mobile phone rebate process. As you see that it is very easy to identify who is responsible for which step after seeing the diagram. That's why it is very easy to fix a responsibility. So take an example that if in this case the checks are not sent on time to the customer, so we know that who is responsible for this process. Seeing the diagram, we can say that the rebate center group is responsible for sending checks to the customer. And if that process is not working well, it is very easy to fix the responsibility to the rebate center group that the checks are not being sent on time. So Swimlane diagrams gives you a snapshot of the process steps as well as the person who is responsible for those process steps. Thank you so much.